Olivia, how you doing?
I'm doing well, how are you?
Good, good. Now, what year are you?
This is going to be my second year as a master's student coming up.
Yeah. Why Michigan?
Okay, it's one of the best schools in the nation to me for the music program and the vocal program, and I heard so much about it.
So, what are you thinking about for your career?
I would like to perform and just be an opera singer anywhere that I can perform. I would like to start in Austria or Germany, but we'll see. This place has been very special to me. It really has. In the beginning of last season, Audra McDonald came, and I didn't expect it. I was like, I'm coming to the University of Michigan, I'm coming to Ann Arbor, and I didn't realize that I was going to see and be a part of so many amazing things. And I remember sitting there in that concert and just being inspired by her. And that gave me the courage to begin my master's here. And my question for you is, what performance inspired you or impacted you the most? Or I know it might not just be one, but what performance here at the university has touched you in that way?
Well, you know, there are just thousands of concerts that I've had the opportunity to be a part of here. I'll never forget one of the first ones, which was Leonard Bernstein bringing the Vienna Philharmonic here on October 29th, 1988. A year before, I had just started at UMS, and the first big concerts that I would do would be Leonard Bernstein and the Vienna Philharmonic in back-to-back concerts in September of 1987. Now, you felt a little intimidated, and imagine I had to go and talk to Leonard Bernstein. Never had, run a concert series before. I did these sort of dilettante gigs at the Kennedy Center. I actually did 14 different performances at the Kennedy Center, but I wasn't running an organization. I didn't have to curate a season. And here I was. And what Bernstein knew and what I knew is that the following year he'd be coming out for his 70th birthday tour with the Vienna Phil, but very likely only 4 cities would be on the tour. And yet cities all over the United States wanted that special privilege. And so we were competing with a lot of different cities in North America. Now, how does a guy that is meeting Bernstein for the first time make a pitch, to come back to Ann Arbor? And so one of the things people loved about Bernstein, except maybe for the people hosting the post-concert dinner, he'd be dedicated to meeting every single person that came to see him backstage. If you got in that line, you were going to meet him. He was not going to leave before he met every single person. And, on the one hand, you got to love that. The other hand, if you're running the organization and the big donor is waiting for Bernstein for 2 hours, when the concert's ending at 10 o'clock. So anyway, after everybody had gone, there was just Bernstein and me in that dressing room at Hill Auditorium. And I'm tall. He's sitting there with a bathrobe, scotch in one hand, cigarette in the other, totally relaxing. I'm standing over him. This is no way to invite. I stand over and look down. So I got down on my knee to look him in the eye, and I said, something feeble like, Mr. Bernstein, we want to have you back next year. And his exact words, Ken, I love this town, I love the people of this town, and I love this hall. We'll be back. And a few days later, the tour was announced. 4 cities, New York, Washington, Toronto, and Ann Arbor. And so a year later, October 29th, we presented Bernstein in the Vienna Philharmonic. It was the last time he came to Ann Arbor. He died 2 years later. But that night he played Beethoven, Bernstein, and Brahms. The place was packed. We set aside 550 tickets to sell for $10 a piece to students who lined up 14 hours in advance before the student sale went on. And then the president of the university, who had just become our president, James Duderstadt, with his wife Ann, for the reception afterwards, instead of having the major donors of the university invited, which is what I had proposed to them, I said, don't miss this opportunity, Mr. President. Mm-hmm. And they thought about it overnight and came back and said, Ken, we like your idea, but what I think we'd prefer is to have 30 students as our guests, so they can hang out with Bernstein. Young composers, conductors, pianists, people doing now what Bernstein would have been doing, 50 years ago. I mean, was that brilliant of our president? And so that night, after a magnificent concert, where when everybody left, students from Ann Arbor Pioneer High School handed everybody a box with a piece of birthday cake, because it was Bernstein's 70th birthday, and it was Hill's 75th birthday. And why the students from Pioneer High School? Because they were going to Vienna that summer on a tour. And so the middle of the program, it said, Vienna sends its best to Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor sends its best to Vienna. And then that evening with the president, in the president's home, was just magical. I've got beautiful photos of these young kids that all get dressed up in tuxes and nice dresses, where Bernstein held court with them from about midnight to 1:30. And at 1:30 I went over and I said, I think the president and his wife, they've kind of been fading in the corner, maybe it's time to go. And he said, I don't think so. And he went to the piano and started playing tunes from Candide and West Side Story. And then 10 minutes later, he said, okay, everybody gather around, we should probably, now Ken, where's that place you set up for us to go afterwards? And I said, well, I gave the guy down at the Full Moon on Main Street a call that said you might want to bring people down. And he said, I'll stay open as late as I need to for Leonard Bernstein. Just make sure the kids bring their ID, because so many of the kids were freshmen. Yeah. And what Bernstein did, he asked, so who's upperclassmen here? I mean, he took charge at that point. Who are the you guys take your cars down. Who doesn't have a car? And more than half the kids pile in the limo with me. Oh. So he took these kids in the limo, and Penny and I did not go, but at 4:30 in the morning, he decided it was time to wrap it up. And these kids had then the most amazing experience, many of them as freshmen at Michigan. And so, just as you had that experience with Audra McDonald, there have been so many wonderful experiences, but that stands out because it was about a fantastic musician, Bernstein, one of the great orchestras of the world. It was a demonstration of what's special about Ann Arbor, because when Bernstein chooses us over a lot of these other cities, I mean, Chicago, they weren't part of Miami, wasn't LA, San Francisco, but there was Ann Arbor. And to say, you're just a special place. The repertoire, had some of his pieces. It had the Leonora of Beethoven, and ended with Brahms' Fourth Symphony, which, and the place just leaped. And then what he did, with the kids afterwards, because like Yo-Yo, like Winton, these guys are educators. They don't want to miss the chance to share what they know and their perspectives with kids.
I am truly thankful for the opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Now, what are the takeaways?
The takeaways: ask questions, always stay curious, be humble, teamwork, and as a performer, it's more than just what you do on the stage, it's about the experience that you give people.
So let's be sure to keep in touch after this. But this has just been a great pleasure for me, and wish you the very best.
Thank you.